Hey homeschoolers, I'm Melissa Webb, former full-time classroom teacher and homeschool mom turned full-time business CEO and encourager to homeschool families everywhere. I am determined and dedicated to helping you in this journey that you're on. Yes, I want to give you sound, educational, practical tips and advice, at the same time making sure that you're enjoying the family journey that you are on. So if you are looking for a place to be encouraged and inspired, you have found the perfect podcast. Homeschooling is a work of heart is truly the perfect place to start. So welcome. Let's jump in. Hello, friend. I'm sorry. Hi, friends. Whoops. I'm so sorry. Hey, everyone. There. I think that sounds right. Okay, I know. What a weird intro, right? I'm trying to make a point. It is true. And the title of this week's episode likely gave that away. But I'm so curious to know if you have people in your life who apologize for everything. They're such simple words, I'm sorry, but they are habitual for a lot of people. It's just a habit. People throw it around. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I don't hear many people say, excuse me anymore. I'm sorry has taken the place of all of that. And it is a habit. I have heard people say things like, I'm sorry, did you say apologizing is a bad habit? Do you hear that? I'm apologizing for asking a question. And by the way, yes, I think it can be a very bad habit. Or have you ever ordered food, but then you get the wrong thing? They made the mistake, and we say, I'm sorry, but this isn't what I ordered. Or this actually happens to me regularly in our classes. A student will come to a meeting and let's just say he's sharing his writing, and I notice none of the paragraphs have been indented yet. So I just mentioned, hey, your paragraphs still need to be indented. Oh, I'm so sorry, Mrs. Webb. Do you notice this? This over apologizing in our society? Maybe it's just me. Am I just a ruthless person? Maybe that's it. I really want you to pay attention this week to how often and how many people of all ages apologize for things that need no apology. I read an article a little while back called Does Your Child Over Apologize? And I found that article. I will link to it in this week's episode because she actually has some great practical suggestions. So yes, by the way, obviously I'm not the only one who's noticing this. She wrote a whole article on it. But there are telltale signs if you're wondering if you over apologize or if your kids over apologize. So let's just consider some things. Do you or your children apologize for asking questions? I'm sorry, could you repeat that? Instead of, would you please repeat that? It's a simple little thing, but I think it matters, and I will tell you why in a second. But here's another telltale sign. Apologizing when someone's just making a legitimate request, like the incorrect food order. Is it necessary to apologize when you were not the one who made the mistake? I don't think so. Or certainly there's no need to apologize when somebody's trying to give you some constructive criticism. You could just accept it and say, I didn't catch that. Thank you for catching that. So my first thought as I was putting this week's episode together and jotting down a few bullet points was, why do we over apologize? Well, one, I think it just becomes a habit. I really think it's habitual. We get used to saying it. We think it's the right thing to say in a society. So we say it, say it, say it. And next thing we know, we don't recognize or realize how frequently we say it. I also don't think we put much thought perhaps into why we're apologizing. And I think we should. Now, do not get me wrong. I do love an appropriate apology. That's a wonderful social skill that people absolutely should practice. I mean, it demonstrates empathy, and empathy is great. It's just the over apologizing that gets my goat. And this is why I believe it's a problem. And you are welcome to disagree with me. I would love to hear your thoughts on this, by the way. Here's the thing. So let's take a house plant, for example. They need water. But what happens if you overwater them, like every day, 3 times a day, 7 times a day? You're adding water, adding water. They're going to die. Or what about getting a thank you card? I love getting a thank you card or even a thank you text that, hey, your, package arrived. We loved it. Thank you so much. But if somebody sent me a thank you card or a thank you text every single day or multiple times throughout the day, that would be weird. I mean, it would just be odd, don't you think? And I have students. This is actually something we work on. I'll give them informational text in article format, and I ask them to highlight what's most important. And do you know what they do? Can you picture it? Yeah, they highlight every word of an article, right? They're still learning to figure out what's the most important thing. But here's what I say to them. When you highlight every single word of an article, now nothing stands out. It maybe looks really pretty with all the pretty colors you used, but we have to work on highlighting only what is genuinely important, or nothing becomes important. And I believe that I'm sorry, too many I'm sorries, fits into those buckets of overdoing it. And all of a sudden, it's lost its sincerity or meaningfulness or the genuineness of the whole thing. We see this with our children all the time. They've been told, apologize, say you're sorry. And so they do. Their sibling hits them and then sees mom just noticed and looks at the sibling and is like, I'm sorry. They don't mean it. There's no genuine apology there. They just don't want to get in trouble. So I'm going to do the right thing and say I'm sorry. But I think this is something that is worth a family conversation. It's why I picked it this week. I think these are topics that the whole family can benefit from participating in. A little apology in our lives is great, but too much is too much. And I will tell you this, most of our children learn their habits from us. So this week, I'm going to challenge you to pay attention and just reflect on your own use of those words. When are you saying I'm sorry? To whom are you saying I'm sorry? And why are you saying it? And how much do you mean it? Like, oh, that's a 10 out of 10. I truly am so sorry. Or, well, that was a 1 out of 10. I was just trying to be polite. Because saying I'm sorry doesn't feel like the most polite thing to do in my book when it's said so often that it loses its true meaning. So I've noticed a few things. And again, I would love to hear your thoughts on this. But I used to be somebody who said I'm sorry far too often. And I noticed 3 important things that I want to share with you this week. Number 1, when I said I'm sorry all the time, I was really making it about me. But when I learned that instead I could put someone else's feelings at the forefront and make whatever just happened really about them in a positive way, that felt better for me, but I think it felt better for that person too. For example, if I was late showing up to lunch with a friend, I normally would say, I'm so sorry I'm late, right? All about me. I'm so sorry I'm late. Traffic was really bad. I could even follow it with some excuses. But instead, I turned that into something I noticed and appreciated about them. Thank you so much for waiting. You are a patient friend, and I need patient friends, so I appreciate you. Do you hear the shift? It's pretty powerful. Going from, I'm sorry about me, and turning it into thank you for being such a patient friend. It feels grateful. And how would you receive that if you were that friend that patiently waited for me? The second thing that I noticed was that I'm sorry is negative language, and it's usually paired with negative facial expressions. So, again, let me give you an example. Let's say your boss, or maybe for students, a teacher, has asked, hey, last call for all late work or anything that's been missing that you've meant to get to. I'm accepting it. Let's get that turned in. Plenty of people would say, I'm so sorry. I know I'm turning this in late. Now, imagine the facial expression that goes with that. You can kind of I'm kind of squinching my eyes up. It's kind of a sad or apologetic face versus smiling and saying, hey, I know it's late, but it is going to be worth it. And thank you for accepting this and being so understanding. I'm smiling. I don't know if you can imagine that, but that feels more positive. And that is a great social practice. Right there, that is a great social practice. Give it a shot. The third thing that I noticed is that I'm sorry does instill a feeling of self-blame. And I especially worry about our children in this particular space, because that's not something we want our children to emulate. If you have a child who says to you, I'm sorry, but mom, I need your help. Notice that. It sounds as if something's wrong with the child for needing help. I'm sorry, mom, I need your help. Right? Like there's something wrong with them. Like there's this self-blame happening. I just want to be so careful about that because that's easy to redirect. That's a simple redirect. We can just say to our children, here's a better response, honey. When you need my help, I'm happy to help you. So just say, hey, mom, do you have time to help me? Can you feel the confidence rise in that second example? Or, hey, mom, I could really use some help. There's confidence there. Much more so than, I'm sorry, but mom, I need you. One's kind of whiny, and the other is stronger, confident. And here's a fun fact: gratitude practices improve a person's self-esteem and also fosters resilience. And I think those are things we want our children to have. Those are both very positive traits. So this week, I really hope you get a chance to have a worthwhile conversation with your kids, maybe your whole family, and talk about what does deserve an apology. Right? We could lose our temper and scream and yell at one another in our home and later truly feel apologetic with a remorseful, repentant attitude. Come in and say, I am so sorry that I yelled at you when I lost my temper today. That's sincere. And notice it's not just I'm sorry. That's really important. A good apology goes beyond the two words I'm sorry. Because here's what I believe: if a person cannot tell me why she is sorry, she probably isn't. It's just this habit of, I'm sorry. I said I was sorry, but why are you sorry? Because you're upset, so I'm sorry. There lacks a whole lot in that kind of apology, doesn't it? As I mentioned, I did read this great article, and I'm going to link it in the show notes. But I want to tell you a few things that this author, McKenna Sadie, maybe, offered. And they are the 5 reasons why she thinks a person may need to apologize. And that these are 5 questions you can ask yourself. Again, I would come up with a list as a family. I don't know that I agree with all of these, but here are her 5. Number 1, ask yourself, did I hurt someone's body? So again, you have children in your home and somebody literally gets hurt. If a child intentionally hit a sibling and hurt somebody's body, that seems like a really important thing to apologize for doing. If it's accidental, you could still say, I'm sorry I accidentally hurt you. But instead of coming in with the I'm sorry, I would probably start with, are you okay? How can I help you? The second question she suggests is ask, did I hurt someone's feelings? And I kind of struggle with that one a little bit because, well, how people feel is dependent on the thoughts they choose. So some people can have their feelings hurt very easily. And I'm not sure I want to apologize for someone else's inability to take those thoughts and have more control over them. But I think with young children, it would be worth talking about. Her third question, and this was all related to children over apologizing, is did I scare someone? Okay. The fourth one is, did I damage something that belonged to someone else? That's pretty legit. And the last one is, did I create extra work for someone else who is now going to need to fix my mistake for me? That's pretty legit too. The other thing that she has in this article, and I won't go over it, but you can certainly read the article for yourself. She has many alternative phrases that you can practice with your children and say this instead of that. And I know I've even seen on Pinterest and places like that lists that you can print off that are fun and colorful and actually keep in your homeschool room or in the kitchen, especially if you feel like you do have one child in particular that is over apologizing. Now, I'm going to offer up a very simple thing that you can do, and I'm going to challenge you to do it this week, whether it's you, yourself, or somebody in your family, your child, maybe your spouse, totally up to you. But try this week to replace one I'm sorry with a thank you. Just change that. So again, if you're going to apologize for something like, I'm sorry I'm running late, turn it into, thank you for your patience. I know you waited for 20 minutes, whatever you want to say, but just flip I'm sorry into thank you and just see how easy that is and how you feel and how the person receiving that feels as well. I really do hope you can apply and practice replacing the unnecessary apologies with a form of gratitude this week. And if you do, let me know how that goes. Positive language is important. It builds mutual respect and it also instills positive communication. It is a little thing, but I promise you, practicing this can have a very big impact on levels you may not even imagine yet. So give it a try. I hope you do. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in this week. I hope it felt like a great use of your time. Right on. Well, thanks so much for tuning in and listening this week. Hey, if this was something that you found valuable, don't forget you want to subscribe or follow so that every time a new episode is dropped, you'll be the first to know. And hey, before you go, if you are looking to get some of this academic writing under your belt and outsourced so that it's one less thing freeing you up to enjoy more time with your family, hey, you're going to want to head over to writeonweb.com to see what kinds of resources and materials I have available for you. I will look forward to seeing you there, and I will look forward to seeing you here in our next episode. Right on.